Hey Keto peeps, it's Carolyn from All Day I Dream About Food. And today we're going to make my famous Keto Kentucky butter cake. Kentucky butter cake is a big, beautiful, buttery bundt cake. Try saying that 10 times fast. And as the name suggests, it takes massive amounts of butter. Sound good to you? Well, let's get started. So first let's talk about the pan. Bundt pans are notoriously sticky anyway because of their shape. And this is an incredibly tender cake, so you need to make sure you have a good pan and you prep it properly. I love this very good non-stick, non-toxic pan from USA Pan. I highly recommend it. But even with a really good pan, you still want to prep it really well. So the first thing we're going to do is rub some butter into the pan, and you really want to make sure to work it into every little crevice. Then I like to grease it a second time with a more liquid oil. So right now I am using macadamia oil spray. You can use avocado oil spray too. And I usually just take a pastry brush and make sure that that second coating is all over the pan as well. And finally, to help it release even more, I take a little bit of almond flour and sprinkle it around and make it coat the entire pan. Once we have our pan all nicely prepped, we can start whisking together our dry ingredients. So I have 2.5 cups of almond flour here, and I'm going to add 1/4 cup of coconut flour and a 1/4 cup of whey protein. And if you want to know why I use whey protein, make sure you check out my video on the importance of protein powder in keto baking. 1 full tablespoon of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And make sure you whisk those together properly to break up any clumps and get them nicely mixed. Now here's where some of the butter comes in. For the cake itself, we are using a full cup of butter, nicely softened, and we're adding a cup of granular swerve. And we'll beat those together until they're nicely creamed and fluffy. And this cake takes 5 full eggs. And you want to beat those all in until nice and creamy. Then we can add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And again, beat that in until combined. Now, a good thing to do when you're making a cake of any kind is to make sure that every so often you're scraping down the beaters and the sides of the bowl, just to make sure everything's combining nicely. Okay, once everything's nice and smooth and creamy, you can add your dry ingredients, and you can add that all at once. And finally, we're going to add some liquid. I have 1 cup here, and it is half cream and half water. And we'll just add that to the mixture. Now we can take our nicely prepared bundt pan and add our batter. And as you can see, as I'm adding this, it's not really a liquidy batter. It should be relatively thick. So once you have it all in there, just take a spatula and spread the top and make it all nice and even. And now we're ready for the oven. Your cake goes in at 325 for 50 to 60 minutes. You want it to be nice and golden brown, and the top should be firm to the touch. Okay guys, I just took the cake out of the oven. It smells amazing, and we are going to add some more butter to it. We are going to be making a butter syrup that gets poured onto the cake. So our first thing is to take 5 more tablespoons of butter and melt them in a pan with some sweetener. Now, I am going to be using 2 sweeteners here. I've got 3 tablespoons of granular swerve, and to make it more syrupy, I am adding 3 tablespoons of allulose. If you don't have allulose, that's fine. You can use Boca Sweet, you can use xylitol, or you can just use a little more swerve. It just won't be quite as syrupy. And we'll melt those together and stir those together until the sweetener dissolves. And once your butter is all melted and your sweeteners have dissolved, you're going to whisk in 2 tablespoons of water and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then you just want to remove it from heat, and we'll start adding it to our cake. So now our cake is still warm, and you want it warm when you add the syrup, And you're going to take a kitchen skewer and just poke holes all over it. Just little holes to help absorb the butter syrup. And then you can just pour the butter syrup on top. You want the cake to just absorb all of the syrup while it's still warm. Now, leave your cake alone, let it cool completely before you try to take it out of the pan. So I've been letting it cool for about an hour now. The pan's just still a tiny bit warm, but I think I can take it out. Now, something I have learned with keto cakes and breads and other baked goods is that you want it to cool in the pan, but you don't want to leave it in the pan too long. If you do, it will start to stick again. So I'm just going to take a knife and just gently loosen the edges and make sure it's pulling away from the sides of the pan, which it is. It's looking pretty good. Whew, fingers crossed. We're going to put a cake plate over top and the moment of truth. Ooh, I heard the little pop. I think we did it. Oh, it is gorgeous. Look at that. It came out perfectly. And that is one gorgeous butter cake. Oh, honestly, I don't think I've ever baked a better looking one than I did just now. So rock on. I'm just gonna cut myself a really small slice so that I don't ruin my appetite for dinner. And it's absolutely gorgeous with a few fresh berries on top. Oh, it is so moist, so buttery. It's absolute perfection. Now I hope I've given you the confidence to go make a keto Kentucky butter cake just like this one. For this awesome keto cake recipe and so many more, please check out alldayidreamaboutfood.com.